Hello, and welcome to another edition of this, the Curtlyn Warner Show. My name is Curtlyn Warner. Alongside me is my co-host, Mr. Elvis Flanders. Today we're going to have a great conversation. This conversation is pertaining to basketball and its legend and the coach. Without further ado, I turn the mic over to my co-host, Mr. Elvis Flanders.
Hello, my name is Elvis Flanders and I'm happy to be a part of the Curtlyn Warner Show as the co-host. And as he said, we're going to have a great conversation with these fine gentlemen of our community. We have, my left here, we have Mr. Siegfried Hodge, one of St. Martin's icon basketball players. We have Mr. Mark Snooks Edwards, the bear we call him, another great pioneer of basketball in our community. And we have one of our legendary coaches. We have Mr. Louis in the midst with us. Coach Louis, we call him. Without further ado, gentlemen, let's start from my left with you, Mr. Hodge. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like the last interview, Siegfried Hodge, power forward. Everybody knew me from the great Bullets back in the days. Today I'm here with my right-hand man. This guy threw me out at hoops, along with Fatos or SK as some know him. Those two was, we was the originals. Gary Payton and Sean Kemp up local.
Good. And pass the ball over to you then, Mr. Edwards.
Good afternoon. Thank you for bringing me here on this show. My name is Mark Edwards, point guard. Give me a little 6 feet. But yeah.
Good, yeah. And this fine gentleman right here, known as one of our icon coaches on the island.
Good afternoon. My name is Louis Richardson. Call me Coach Louis, if you may. I've been coaching basketball for quite some time, so I'm here today to give some knowledge and reminisce about the past.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for being here and welcome to the program. Let me ask you this question. I'm going to start with Mr. Hodge. Mr. Hodge, how did basketball started for you? In our previous interview we had with you, Mr. Hodge, you let us know that you started basketball at the tender age of 12. Mm-hmm. Could you give us a little more insight into when you started first, how difficult it was?
Yeah. Like I said, I actually didn't like basketball to begin with. I had some cousins that came down from St. Lucia and that was their sport. The deal was that I introduced them to baseball and they introduced me to basketball and then started playing and surprisingly I started picking up on the game so quick. Actually, I thought it was a lot easier than playing baseball. And from there, I guess that was my calling.
We go over to Mr. Edwards. Some call him Bear, Mark Bear Edwards. Could you tell us when you started to play basketball, at what age and how was it at that point in time for you?
Well, basketball started for me joining the brigade at a young age, 12 years. And I used to follow my older friends. So at the time, the pack was like, where your friends is, you want to be. But baseball was my first love. And then when I went to the brigade, I started to play basketball with Bullets.
So it's almost the same scenario as Mr. Hodge.
Yeah.
Now we go over to the coach, Mr. Louis Richardson. Have you ever played the game of basketball on a professional level before you get into the coaching?
When you say professional?
I mean, as we have our local league, have you ever played in the league, in one of our local leagues?
Well, I played in juniors here at the Milton Peters College with the team of No Tricks. And then I went on to Aruba, where I played the rest of my years in Aruba with the juniors and seniors.
All right. Now, let's take it from here now and go deep into our conversation, what we are here for. All right, guys, gentlemen, we are here talking basketball, and while we're in the basketball mood, both you two gentlemen as players and Mr. Richardson as coach have traveled most of the entire Caribbean playing basketball together as a team. Could you gentlemen give us a tidbit of what happened then as you go out to represent St. Martin as a national basketball team? How was it then?
Comparing to now,
comparing to now?
then tryout was cutthroat because you would have 50 guys show up for tryout. Today you have to call 5 guys. And that's the difference. And I should know because I actually coach a team that represents this and that in the Battle of the Fittest already. So that's the difference. The intensity, the love. To me, that's the difference today than back then.
Mark?
Well, my first tryout was the 1987 team. I was playing juniors when the brother coach here, he saw me playing juniors. And he invited me to train with the team, but I didn't make the team because it was guard studded, you know. They had Maarten and all those guys ahead of me. I was already playing seniors and they had a name. But the opportunity just to train with the team was a big upbringing for me. And then after that, I just fall into the selection previous until.
Let's hear from the coach himself, Mr. Richardson. How was it at that time? I mean, you've been coached so many teams here locally, the junior league, the senior team, the selection. How was it? How did you get that coaching ability under your wings? Tell us how the coaching started, how you started being a coach. What motivated you to get to that level to be a coach?
Well, like I said, I started on playing juniors at the Milton Peters College. And at that time, coaches was very, very difficult. You couldn't get a coach to coach and train your team. So at that age, I took up the responsibility to coach and train my team along with myself.
Wow.
So there it started. So at the age of 16 years.
At the age of 16, so you was selected as one of the youngest coach ever to coach this game of basketball.
Now, let me ask you a question, Mr. Richardson. During all your years of coaching, what would you say was that moment for you that you got recognition, that people recognize you as a true coach of the game? How did you prepare your guys, for a game, for instance?
Well, for me, it was always about discipline and attendance. I would not coach a team if they're not training. So when I call training, I want everyone to be there, present to train. As a matter of fact, over the years, for the years that I've been coaching, very seldom I would come late to a training. I'm always the first person at the training or always on time. And if I trained players, let's say, just a figure, 1,000 times, I probably missed training maybe once.
So it was all about discipline.
Dedication and discipline.
Tell us a little bit about your disciplinary action that you take among the players that train with you. Some players that being involved with your lineup, I mean, over the years, they speak highly of you and the way you coach, even the way in the heart of a game. Sometimes you will take out the key player, that key player for disciplinary action. Tell us a little bit about how you structured your style.
Well, like I said, it all boils down to discipline again. At times you will have, take for instance, a player may show up to a game late. If we have to play, let's say for 10 o'clock, I always tell my players, make sure you're there from 9. If you reach to the auditorium and the game already started, you could be the best player on my team. You go to the end of the bench. And you're going to sit on the end of the bench until the game finishes. That's the way I see it. It's about discipline. Now, in that moment, you may feel that I'm hurting you or taking it out on you by doing it because you are actually hurting your players, the ones that have the confidence and the trust in you to take them to that level. So you hurting them. So therefore, I can say, okay, since you do that, yes, you're going to enter the bench and you're going to have to apologize to your players. Not necessarily to me, the coach, but you must apologize to the players. Discipline.
Reminded me of myself when I was playing in my younger days as well. You know, as these guys, Maarten and Seafood, my love was basketball at first. And then eventually I got into the basketball. Baseball was my first love, got into basketball. We played competitive against each other, basketball and baseball on the baseball field. I don't remember this youngster, he was maybe before, after us, he came after us. So we enjoyed our moments on the baseball field and then also on the basketball court, you know. So my question would be to you two gentlemen. How did you guys prepare yourselves for a game? Since we're talking basketball, how did you guys prepare yourselves for a game? Start with you, Mark.
Well, the basics for me was always putting in the work, you know, getting the condition up to par, and then the knowledge of the game. And then with my experience, because I was before him, I would always bring it to him. By me knowing all the positions on the court, I could always relate things to him. But we had a chemistry because we always playing together, whether it's afternoon, game, whatever. We had a chemistry, so it was easy for me, more difficult for them.
Mr. Hodge?
Well, on game day, school. After school, definitely, you know, you gotta take care of schoolwork. In our era, with your parents, you gotta take care of schoolwork. So I always would get a nap in. But during the course of the day, somewhere in between, you're thinking the game, you're thinking your opponent. And with Bear here, the whole week leading up to the game, see, this guy like to do this guy like to do that. You're playing against the Twin Towers, for example, tonight. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. We run it in practice, afternoons we run. So it was like a whole week of preparation leading up to the game.
Whole mental process.
Yeah.
Coach
Yes.
Louis, can I just interject
Yes, you can.
When I play the game of basketball, when I have a game that day, I would take, let's say, a half an hour or an hour for myself and just focus, go in a quiet place, focus on the game. So when I get to the game, you know, I done already went through mental situations. So when you get to the game now, you can perform optimally.
Very, very good.
Let me ask you, gentlemen, this question. I'm going to ask the coach himself, what wins a game for you? Is it defense, offense? Which one? Defense or offense wins a game for you? Well, how do you structure that?
I'm a defensive coach. I always stress on defense. I always tell my players, defense win games. Reason, if you and I play in a game and I score 100 points, I must be able to stop you from scoring 101. So there is where defense comes in. I must play defense to stop you from scoring 101.
Gentlemen, let me ask you this question. Being out there in the field playing under different structure of basketball, you guys been playing for many different teams on St. Maarten. And in the last interview we had Mr. Hodge, we had some of the teams that name back then veteran teams. We have the Bulldog, we had the Undertakers, the Suns, we had Force. What was one of your greatest game locally? Could you, Mr. Hodge?
One of the greatest games.
Yeah, your local greatest game here in the auditorium.
Wow. I think one of them was against X-Men.
That's against Elvis.
X-Men, yeah. And I ain't saying that because of here, because I remember, you remember, Bear, there was a challenge. I wasn't even present for the challenges. I think Bear is what put me into that bet, always. He said, I bet, you know, see, he get 6 dunks tonight. That game I had 8. We was actually down 3 with seconds left, and I hit a 3-pointer to send it in overtime. I remember that. But X-Men was like the offensive team. X-Men, you know who remind me of X-Men today? Right now, the Brooklyn Nets. Could score. Easy. And it's like Louis said, I'll come down to the last defensive play. Because X-Men could probably score 120 easy, but you gotta score 121. So, but that game, I finished with almost 50 points. I think it was 45 or something like that. I can't remember the exact figure, but it was a hell of a game. It was a battle.
Mark, what was one of your greatest game here?
My biggest
Locally.
game was against Rebels with Bullets. When they were reigning like 9 years, winning championship. And we used to always battle them in the court in the afternoon and stuff. But to take them from the throne, that was one of my biggest games, that we take them down bullets. Yeah.
Mr. Richardson, as a coach, which was one of your greatest, or what was one of your greatest achievement locally in basketball, whether in the junior or the senior division?
Well, I'll name two.
Okay.
The juniors, we had junior force up against team from the French side. That year we went 19-0.
I was a part of that line.
Yeah, definitely. And we became champs. The other one was against X-Men. Was it X-Men? Trotters. It was Trotters.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Couple of seconds left on the clock.
Oh my.
We up by 1 point.
We have by 2 points.
And they scored. They went to the free throw line and won the game. That was a very, very tough and intense game.
That
for
was
me.
T-Ball, right?
No, Giovanni Williams.
Could you
Scholar.
let me ask you this question pertaining to this particular game? I think it was a championship game also between Force and Trotters. I could go back to that game. Force was up by 3 points. The whole St. Peter's was in the stand alongside your brothers, your family. We had guys like Topsy,
Yeah.
Mooch,
Celebrating,
everybody,
ready
the
to
champagne,
celebrate.
ready to celebrate. Force up by 3 points, and Webster was at the line to make a shot. Can you recall a moment?
And he choked. yes. He choked. Yes, I remember that.
And after that, I mean, the game, for some reason, I think Thibault, the great Thibault, had made a 3-point and sent the game to overtime and forced lost that chance. I think it was one of the hardest championship to lose.
Yeah.
After being up by 3 with seconds in the game, I mean,
Yeah, I heard about
And
that.
knowing
I
the
was
coach that we had, you would have expect, we got this.
Yeah, I thought we had it. I definitely thought we had it. We had a timeout. We went in the timeout. 3 seconds left on the clock. Or was it 8 seconds? 8 seconds.
8 seconds it was.
And we went through we were on defense. So we went through a defensive strategy. And for some reason, when the guys went back on the court, the captain then changed his strategy. And we lost again.
Wow.
I can recall some of those great moments as well, I mean, being part of the teams here. Our greatest rivals, as I can remember, was Trickers. It was always competitive for us against any team, but, there was some team that stood out that really got your attention, like Mark said, the BB Bullets and the Magics and the Force and the Trickers, these guys were really competitive, and I would like to see one day that the league gets back to that level. Do you ever see that maybe happening again, Siegfried, Mark, Louis? Either one of you could illustrate on that, tell us how do you think that we can get back to that level of competitiveness within the guys locally?
Locally, for the league to get back to that competitiveness, you have to go district. Because you gotta have your district behind you.
Yeah,
In those
representative.
days, it was
Yeah.
Soccer Garden, Tongue, St. Peter.
That's absolutely true.
If you don't
That's
go to
absolutely
the
true.
district, you can't get back that competitiveness. Because you're gonna get 5 good guys on one team.
Yeah.
He live in Colby, he live in St. Peter's. So
But they
nobody
actually-
really
yeah,
come
yeah.
into cheer. But when you got a whole St. Peter's team, bread and bun,
Yeah.
your
That-
team,
that's
your
I believe
fans
that's the
come
key.
in.
I believe that's the key.
And that's what got the whole league how
So
it is.
you being in the coaching, like you said, and representation and stuff like that, what's holding you back now from driving towards this direction and getting it back in motion that this is something that can happen?
I have a lot of old school in me. I still have to adjust to these. I don't know if I can to the so-called new ways of
I play.
nowadays athletes. To me, they don't have the love. They say they do, but their action speaks differently. I just could speak for experience where at times, I dedicate my time to train, 3-4, and I'm the only one on the court. But they came to me for the help, but they don't show up for practice.
Wow.
And you, Louis, Coach Louis?
I believe it starts with mind change with the athletes. Because, like Mr. Hodge said, these guys would ask you to assist them. About 7 years ago, I left actually basketball and ventured into something else. But the last year that I coached, I had a team from St. Peter's, which I'm from St. Peter's. And we used to train like twice a week. And every time I go training, I would have like maybe 2 guys. Next day, another 2 show up. So I sat down with them and pulling together, guys, what do I have to do to get you to come out to train? He said, Coach, change the day. I said, okay. We was training Tuesday, Thursday. I said, okay, what days you guys can make it? Saturday, Coach. Fine. I went to Mr. Jeffers, which was my sponsor, sponsoring the court. And I told him, I want to change it to Saturdays. Change it to Saturdays, same situation. 1 guy show up, maybe 2 guys.
Wow.
So it's, like I said, you got to have a mind change of the athletes, otherwise it's going to be really, really difficult.
Mr. Edwards, how would you see that? What do you think, in terms of getting the guys back to play, like you said, because in our time, we were there waiting on the coach. We already started a couple of scratch matches games against each other until it's time to practice. Because I remember sometimes we had the auditorium rented. Either team would have the auditorium rented, and the auditorium was packed with athletes playing against each other until whomever has the opportunity to use that court for that hour shows up, then they get to use the auditorium.
In my time, socially was a different aspect. We was friends. We go party together. We go baseball, we go together. Even if we play basketball, we go together. So it was a different aspect. Now we got these guys mostly to themselves. They don't really associate with one another like that. To bring that back, first of all, you got to get into them socially. You got to be their friend to get them to train. I had a selection training, and I had to go maybe to the guy girlfriend to get him to come to train, or maybe go to his job to get him to train. So it's a whole different aspect. But I have a neutral respect with them. We friends. But when I train in a selection,
it's not about friends.
It's not about friends. It's about you coming.
That's right.
Cohesiveness, you touched on it earlier. I would say in the era of basketball, I admire Rebels. Rebels really had cohesiveness.
So then I would have to agree with Mr. Richardson, Coach Richardson, that said initially it's about discipline.
Yeah.
Because discipline is your drive
Discipline.
to do anything.
Exactly.
And if you don't have that discipline, you can have as much love as you want for that sport. It's not going to be the same. In any area of sport that you go into, if there is no discipline, you could be the best player. And you're going to look like a bum when you get on the field. Because it's only about you at that time. It's not about the team because you don't have any discipline.
But I want these young athletes or this generation to understand something. When we sound like this, it's not to knock them.
Yeah.
Because to tell you the truth, I witness a lot of talent. Always saying that the talent alone can get you so far.
That's right.
Yeah, when we say discipline, we not only talking about not costing hours and time management, listening, you understand? Willing to learn. Those are the things. I witnessed a game here where a guy came in and the coach didn't play him in the first half. So he walked up, they asked him why he walked up. He said, well, I bring my girl in the stand, you got me on the bench.
Wow.
You see, that's where the discipline comes in. So
Exactly. That's exactly what
when
I'm
he said
talking
it's
about.
about discipline, because discipline is your drive. Discipline is your drive. Because I could remember practicing in my sports, and I believe that if you don't practice, you shouldn't play.
Definitely.
Hell,
You know, and
yeah.
these guys know me for that.
No,
I believe if you don't practice, you don't deserve to play.
Let me ask you, gentlemen, this question. What was one of your greatest rival team that you would always want to play? Back then we had so many teams. Sifrit, you played for several different teams, but there must be a team that, let's say, okay, Trickers is so hot, this is my rival team. What was your rival
Funny that
team?
you would say Trickers, because when I was in Bullets Juniors, I always wanted to play trickles. I always wanted to play trickles because they had this one guy named Toxic with my last name. Wanted to play back. Because then, like, when you lose, to see him running past in Bush Road going Sippy. I love that. But no, but trickles had talent. So that was a rivalry. And then when I got to the senior bullets now, Rebels. Rebels. I always wanted to play Rebels because he said it earlier. You have to dethrone Rebels.
Mark,
Well,
you could give us 2-3 teams. It's okay.
Yeah, that's so much
play on
serious.
Bullets, or play on Sons, or play on Magics. So, but with the Bullets, I always wanted to play Techniques. with Sons, I always wanted to play Spartans. And with Magics, I always wanted to play Trickers. Because they was, and not leaving out X-Men because I like Scotchy. I like to beat him because
everybody wanted
if he can't beat us with the locals, he going somewhere to bring Trinidadians or beat him. He bring French fellows or beat him. So those were the rivals that always keep me on a level too because I always want to achieve to make the selection to go to Liban.
Coach Louis, what team as a coach you always wanted to get into?
I think I look at it differently. I didn't like to play, let me put it this way, I didn't like to play a lot of teams because of their capabilities in winning the game. So when I got to meet against X-Men, I got to be home studying, trying to figure out what I'll do to try and win this game, to get the guys so motivated to win this game. Then there was Magics.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave home knowing you got to play against Magics, it's a headache. Yeah, 'cause you had guys there like Omar Illich. This guy was he was a disaster when it comes to, he would devastate you. So I look at it different. I didn't like to play against those teams.
Let me ask you, gentlemen, coming up against the other teams back in the past, name some of the players that you played against that you wouldn't fear, but when you're playing against this player, you want to sort of shut down this player. Okay, like we know Coach Lewis always have a good team. We know St. Peter's had trickers. There must be players. Okay, let me use trickers, for example. We have trickers with guys like Jeffords, Mooch, Topsick. When these guys coming out to St. Peter's, and I'm talking about these defensive guys. How you guys used to feel then, knowing like your mindset going to play against certain players. What's the feeling? Like Coach Lee was just talking about.
Well, against trickers, I like to get in the head, I would always make gestures to them, Sam, I eat fish. Those type of things, and they will get rattled, they want to fight, get them out of the game, But Jeff Force was always the fellow, he rowdy and he rough. I would always tell him, boy, eat fish. Stop eating these Vienna sausage. He would come at me and then Maarten, he kind of bully, I say, boy, you soft, boy. You like paper. Those kind of gestures always getting in the head because there's a lot of players, once they get in the head, they can't play. And I always had the edge for that,
Mr. Hodge?
For me, it was more of matchups. So it all depends on who playing the same position as me that night. It was always that, because I can remember fellas like Paddock. I know Paddock is automatic from the top. So they try to take away the top from him. And then we say just now, Jeffers, rugged. Then you had Nasio, who was a rebounding machine. So you have to mentally prepare to play these guys. You had Bamboo at center when I first come in, that just don't bite a fake. You just stay on the ground, so either faking, and the referee card 3 seconds on you because he ain't good. So it's like matchups.
Let's bring you in, Elvis. Was there any rivals for you that you and your team wanted to?
I like what Sifu said because for me, during my years of play, I'm always looking for the guy that matches my position. And they always saw me as a wall. They was like, how in the world you could put a guy on your back and he can't get over you. Because I practice that I make sure It does, as big as the guy is. Once he's behind me,
That's true.
for he to get that rebound, he have to climb over this wall. You know, and I could remember playing against Jefferson. Jeff was like, boy, what you just eat, you know? I said, listen, meat make you strong. You know, like I feel against a lot of guys that, you know, they used to say, you know, they don't eat meat and these kind of things. And I would go up with these guys on my back, and they would want to know how I get so strong. You know, but it's obviously about, you know, your head, you know, because I would go let's say for instance a free throw. I would go on the side with the tallest guy because I always thought boxing out. And in defense,
And you had
like the
mastered
coach
that.
says, makes the game. If you want to win a basketball game, try defense. I played against guys like Maarten. Maarten would always try to penetrate through the zone. And I had Maarten's number. That I don't know if you guys ever noticed me. Maarten would pass the first guy on the top of the guard. When Maarten come on the second step, I'm right there with him. I used to say, come Maarten. And he was devastated by that. He used to come to me in the ear and say, Lord, don't do that to me no more.
Guys,
You know, that was a great moment. That was
let
a
me
great
take
moment.
let me take you now on the international scene. I'm going to start with Coach Lewis. Which was one of your greatest team you ever coached on the international level? I mean, you coach Labour, you coach Kingdom Games, you coach. Which was one of your greatest experience? Could you name your greatest experience as a coach?
Greatest experience.
There had to be
I
many.
must say it was with the Kingdom Game.
Kingdom Games.
That's when
Give
we,
us an insight of it.
when we defeated Holland in the Kingdom Games, and young team, fairly young guys, you know, but like I said, defensively, we beat Holland.
And how did you put it together? I mean, as I think it was the Antillean team then.
Yes, the Antillean selection. We
The
had
Antillean
10
selection.
players,
Uh-huh.
of which 7 was from St. Maarten,
Wow,
2 from Curacao, and 1 from Station.
wow.
And at that time, I knew for a fact that Holland people, or the Dutch people, are tall people. So I said, the only way we're going to beat these guys is with speed,
Condition.
speed and condition. So what I did, I approached Tops, Julian Richard. I don't know if you can.
Top,
yeah,
stop.
yeah.
Coach
Yeah.
Top. Coach
And I
Top.
told him, I said, Tops, I need you to condition these guys for me. So that he took care of the strength and conditioning aspect of the game, while I took care of the rest of the game, the knowledge of the game,
Mental
getting them ready. You see? And
Could you name
like,
some of the players that were on that team during that time?
you had Ali Samasal, God rest his soul. You had Clive Gario, Travis Green, Sean Green, Luigi Lopez from Curacao, Leonid Antonio from Curacao, Rivers, Nisio Rivers from Station, Edwin Sampson from St. Martin, and Andy Scottberg.
Like, this game must bring you some great memory. Cause this game happened some almost 20 years ago, right? If I'm not mistaken, almost.
Yeah,
and if you could remember
96.
all of these players,
96.
no, wow. I mean, if you could remember all of these players by hand point, you give us 10 players already. That should have been a great game. What was it like playing in Holland? Did that game play in Holland? Or
No,
you
the
played
game took, we played in Curacao.
in Curacao? What
Yes.
was it like? The atmosphere.
It was intense because Curacao saw us as a St. Martin team and not as an Antillean selection. So when we got there with our 7 players from St. Martin, they tried the utmost to disrupt that and send back some of our players so we could add more Curacao players. But I stood up to that strongly, and you know, we went on to. But like I said, defense and speed is what win that game. Holland had 2 awesome point guards, and they had a lot of tall players. So what we did, I always train my teams like 5 or 6 different defenses. So when you get in a game, I would call a defense, you change, so you keep the offense off balance. So we took out the 2-point guard by playing a diamond and 2, a triangle 2. So took out the 2-point guards and force now one of the centers to hand the ball. And every time he put the ball on the court, I had a rover, which I call a rover, which was Gario. He would leave his man, double team the center, steal the ball, fast break player.
Wow.
So that's how we.
That's the strategy.
Let me ask this question. Now, you've been to Kingdom game. We know that you was crowned champion as a. Now we got to these gentlemen. You have coached these local legendary. We have guys like Sifri Taj, Mark Beer Edwards, Jermaine S.K. Buchanan, Gerald James, Maarten. You name the whole selection we had there. How was it? How did you felt coaching these guys on a Leeward Island level? Did you get the respect that you deserve on that? And I will ask them the same question.
Definitely, the respect was there. The respect was mutual. I respected the guys, and they respected me. So that was quite easy. That was the easy part of it. You know, it just boils down now to getting the chemistry together, which we put together and training. You know, so to go out there and perform.
Let me ask the gentleman this. I mean, I've asked you before, Sifri. And I will ask Mark B. Edward. Could you tell me one of your greatest coaches that ever coached the game of basketball locally in St. Maarten?
In the league or selection?
In the league. Who would you say was one of the greatest coaches?
The greatest
locally?
coach in St. Maarten is Louis. But
And why? Not because he's here, let's not polish nothing about it.
no, he's very disciplined. Well, he had a lot of confidence in me as a captain, you know, and I had shown that neutral respect. But at the same time, he know the game of basketball and positions, and he always is a coach of details. You got to get the details of the game. If you don't have the details of the game, you can't win. What they will call analytics now. He have a lot of analytics of the game, so, and we both work together, and you know, so.
Mr. Hard, you did say it on another platform, but this is a different platform where we have a group of us sitting. You could tell us, and you said it already, why one of the reasons that you said Mr. Louis is one of the greatest coaches of all time in St. Maarten?
I think Bear touched on it. The way he teaches, the way he approaches the game. I mean, his accolades speaks for itself. All his accomplishment. I had the pleasure to play a full season for him when he played with Sons, and for me personally, that was one of my favorite seasons. If I could tell a quick story, Roy, I was at a low point in basketball, not in life, but in basketball. I had just returned from college. I didn't go to the Pro League in Europe because of a heart condition. My good friend, he was one of those that picked me up off me. He said, like, "Come, play. I don't want to play no more." You know, because I feel like my dream had just crashed. And I played for Louis, and I reinvented myself. I mean, we were running hills, doing all kind of things. We won the championship there. But he reminded me of my college coach, the way he approached the game, the way he teach the game. It was not just come pick up a ball and practice. He break down every position. He had plays, inbound plays, outbound plays, overtime plays, and all. You understand? I mean, he had just had. I was like, wow. You know, I had an opportunity to play on the national team with him already, but to have a full season, awesome.
Wow. Elvis, as a person that never played for Coach Louis, what did you see with Coach Louis from the outside?
That was easy. You know, when you see the way a guy handled his team, that tells you a lot about a coach. And he demanded respect from his players. That makes you a coach. You give it, and it comes right back to you in 100-fold. And just to see how those guys would play under him, you have to respect that.
Wow.
You have to have respect that.
I must ask this question. Coach Louis, you have stepped away from basketball for some time, let's say about 7-8 years now, you have stepped away from basketball, and you remain a coach. I've seen you now take up a new mantle of track and field. Tell us a little bit about that turn from basketball to track and field, the same coaching strategy. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I basically took up the coaching and track and field because my daughter, she's a runner. I have both two daughters and they run. And when she was 6 years old, you know, I took her to, we were driving in town one day, and her mother had another car, so I stopped and tell her, listen, go and catch your mother. This was by the roundabout, the Salt Pickers roundabout, and her mother was down by the university. She was 6 years old, and she jumped out of the truck and she started running. I was scared because I said it's a long distance,
Yes.
and she's just 6 years old. And as she kept running, she started to pick up speed. The further she gets, she pick up speed. So I said, no man, this girl's supposed to be in track. So from there on, I committed myself to the track, and I brought her to training with Les Brown for a year or two, and I get involved. The same discipline I had with the basketball, I took that to track. So if she had training 3 times a week. For the 3 times a week, she never missed a training. I never miss a training. If she trained for 3 years, she probably missed 2 trainings for 3 years. And if she missed 2, then I missed 2. If she missed none, I missed none. So that same discipline, I bring it over to the track.
So what is the different reaction do you get from the younger ones that you train the track and field now? Do you have a sense of urgency with the younger ones now training track and field? What are the comparisons between track and field and basketball?
Well, right now, I deal with kids 10 years and let's say 6 to 10. And they have a lot of love for the sport, for track. You can see the passion, how they train, you know, and that is a great thing to have. Basketball, the same thing. If you have the passion for the sport, and the discipline, you would get places. So that's where it's at with track right now.
My co-host was a former track and field athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he would want to sneak a question into you pertaining to track and field. So
Yes, definitely. You know, I admire what you said, and you recognize your daughter's talent from early.
Yep.
And as you said, she was the age of 6. Makes me to wonder, you know, and we talked about this as well in our last interview with Mr. Hodge, and I'm sure Mr. Baker can identify that we talked about the discipline for the sport, in any sport, and then we realized that the problem is a problematic system in the sense that maybe we're approaching too much of the older guys in that sense because they've already gotten used to this environment where they see how NBAs play today, you know, and they want to adapt to that. But you first got to start from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
So why aren't we trying to get a farm system together in all sports? Because maybe some of these little bit older guys may realize that, you know, if these youngsters can do it, we can do it too. The discipline starts early enough.
Yep.
If we can portray that into the youngsters, like you did with your daughter from 6 years old, I believe the smaller they are, the easier they are to groom. Mm-hmm. And then you get them to go the direction you want them to go. And the love will come because as a youngster at that age, she's going to have love for something. And she found love in the sports because you have groomed her to show her that this is what she can do good. I'm just saying, you know, I believe that maybe we need to use that platform. Siegfried talked about it when he was here last time as well, where he said that, you know, it should start in school. Makes a lot of sense. You know, so you want to get the athletes to understand certain things and get them to elevate it.
What you mentioned there with recognizing talent, it is very important to be able to recognize that talent at a young age. Because my daughter first went to swimming. So she would get up 6:30 in the morning to go swimming here. She did it for like 2 weeks. She said, she can't worry that, water is too cold. I said, fine. Then I took her to ballet, to dance. She cried like a baby. And that's when I found out with the running
Yeah.
that track is where she's supposed to be.
She has a passion for something.
You see?
There you go.
So you have to be able to recognize it at a young age.
But you said a key point. You said that you took her to a few different sports.
Yep.
So you saw her love that she had for running. Maybe not realizing that was there before, but just that one particular time, you were able to point that out.
Yep.
guys, let's go back a little into basketball. During the Liba tournament, I spoke about this the last time with Mr. Hodge. Now I have you gentlemen, I will just get an input of you gentlemen concerning the Liba basketball. The greatest rival in Liba basketball was St. Maarten versus St. Kitts. And, you know, I would like to hear you both your gentlemen point of view from you guys' point of view. How did this rival occur? And I heard it from Mr. Hodge before, but I would like to hear you from UB because I know you as a point guard, and then we had Marty from St. Kitts. You know, that great rival. How did you set in with it as a player, and how did you set in with it as a coach? Bill?
Well, it come with a bragging rights, you know. When every time we play them in Liverpool, Barman was the coach, and Barman is a man, he like to brag. So we will put up that against him, you know. So every time we meet St. Kitts, it was like intense, you know. We want to beat them. And from the time I reach on the scene in the selection, they never beat us. The before guys, yeah, they used to kill them, but when we see Frit and SK and all that, we start to get together and put in the work. They come here, we beat them. We go there, we beat them. So now they have that every time they want to play St. Maarten. So
Even to today,
yeah,
it's a
But-
rival.
it's a rival on a court, but we was close with them.
Very close. I know that.
We was close
One
with
thing
them.
for sure,
Definitely.
St. Kitts and
If we
St.
play
Maarten
against
players always
Tatola
together.
in the Liban, St. Kitts team will back St. Maarten. And if they playing against Tatola in Antigua, we will back them. Because we had a close knit, and then we had a player on our team, actually from St. Kitts, with his SK, Buchanan. So we get more closer again.
Louis?
Well, I only had like 3 years of coaching the senior selection, so I only have known Marty, not personally. I heard of the Marty, you know, and the Ghost and those guys, but like I said, only 3 years. I think the last year we played them. I think it was in Antigua. I
No,
don't
they
think-
didn't come to Antigua.
They ain't come
They
there.
didn't come to Antigua.
Yeah.
It was here.
We played them twice. Twice we went to Antigua.
Okay. I didn't go
The
to
last time we played them in Antigua when Badman pulled the
Yeah.
card,
I hear about
The,
that.
Point spread.
point spread, point
Yeah.
system, and we beat them there, but because of it was both 4 teams in one pool, and all the teams had 3 teams had 2 win and
One.
1 loss.
So for them to get
So we
in,
went to point
they
system,
went to the point system.
and we dropped in 5th place.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
so-
was there for that one, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, could you name some of the greatest Leeward players that you played with or played alongside?
Okay, I'm going to name the players I played against.
Yes. Some of the
Nah.
great players
The
From the
great,
different-
one of the Marty Huggins,
from St. Kitts.
yeah. Then you had the real McCoy from Antigua. You had Hollywood and his brother.
The 3 brothers.
Yeah, the 3
Naya.
brothers, the Edward brothers.
Naya.
Then you had Jason from Tatola. You had Basil from Tatola. You had Ben up from Tatola. You had
Funny, idiot.
You had Tormund. Then you had Anguilla. You had Mingles. And then you had the
Dave
Webster
Westerman
boys.
too. Yeah.
And then you had from Stacia, you had Earl,
Spanners and then
the Spanners, and Mikey, and
Let me ask you, gentlemen, because of time with the program, let me ask a question. Let's dive a little into basketball in depth. Let's talk about NBA. Let's go down NBA road. There's one question circled in the entire world. Who is the GOAT of basketball? Many people say, let's divide it by errors. Some will want to say, take the error out of it and just put. In your opinion, I'm going to go straight around the table. I'm going to try to involve myself in this one. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Flanders. Who would you say is the GOAT of basketball? The greatest
Well,
player of all time?
You know, I think what you just said makes a whole lot of difference. I believe the errors tells a lot of difference about the game. Because there were good players in every era that you could think about. So it's not fair to say, you know, this is the greatest player of all time. Because one player was great in his era, Other players are great in their other eras. It's just like Michael
There
Jordan.
must,
And then-
excuse me, but I think this is my just opinion. I think there must be one person that stands out. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as we
can't
are.
have one
you-
person.
if
Yeah,
you
I'm
ask-
forcing.
If you
It's
ask
different
that
position.
player that
Let's-
I'm just
who
about to
believes
say.
that
Let's
he's
debate,
the greatest
let's debate.
player, he will say it's probably another player.
Let's debate.
But and that's why it's up for grabs. I believe it's up for grabs. But I believe in each era, there were different eras in basketball. There were great players in those eras that stood out. That's my opinion.
Give me three greatest played in three different eras.
Good. We would have to call the great Bill Russell. Bill Russell, I would
his-
say,
that's
in
his
his era.
era.
Yes, that was his era.
Let's come.
Undoubtedly. We could even put Kareem in his era. Because these guys just fall out of their era into their era. But alongside that, it's like they were treading into their era at the end of one's career. So that's how you have to see it.
Let's
You
continue.
know, then we have to look at the great Michael Jordan.
The Magic
And-
Johnson.
I thought, for me, Magic Johnson was all around better than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a good scorer. He was definitely a good player, a good defensive player and everything. But when it comes to the all-around scene of the court, I would have given it to Magic. And if you ask Magic, Magic would say, give it to Michael. You see where we're going? So, and now, Kobe came in just as Jordan was coming out. So then you look at Kobe and say, this is the player that stood out the most in this time. But he was coming in at the end of Jordan's career. So did Kobe. Kobe came in just in the middle of Kobe's career. So did LeBron came in. And everybody saw, you know, but you have to look at the eras. If you're not looking at the eras, then of course you want to see your greatest player of all time. But I don't see it like that. I see it as a great player in his era, and that's it.
Mr. Hodge, you could give us three different eras.
I go even further because basketball have 5 different positions.
Yeah.
So how do you tell a great player? Because Michael Jordan can't do what Shaq used to do. Shaq can't do what Iverson used to do.
See, it makes a lot
You
of
understand what I'm saying?
I'm getting you.
Yeah. But for conversation's sake, we go stick to the eras. Alright, because I know everybody going Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Alright, there was this last program, what was it, with the Bulls? Everybody get to know, the younger fellas get to know more about Michael Jordan. I would say as LeBron James is a more complete player because he's a better passer and so forth. But no, I'm gonna be biased because
Say it as you
I'm a
feel it.
Laker fan, and the mentality goes back to this tenacious mentality. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant was right there. These is fellas them. If you have to guard them, you ain't sleeping the night before. You're not sleeping the night before. LeBron James is the hell of a talent. He plays for my favorite NBA team right now. You understand? I admire him because he's an all-around player. Unselfish, he could pass the ball, he could rebound. He easily get through. Yeah, I get that. But I would have liked to see him play in the days of the Bad Boys Pistons where he get banged up. Let me see if he gonna go back in. Then I could compare him and Michael Jordan. Because Michael Jordan gets some blows, you know.
Yeah.
As big as Shaq is, you're a hacker Shaq.
Yeah.
So, you know, and not saying that LeBron don't get fouled, you understand? But back then, when we used to get ponging, I just wanted to see how he would have handled it mentally. Because Rodman and them fellas was no joke.
Mark?
Well, my goat is Magic Johnson because if you cut off the head from the snake ain't moving. Magic could play with anybody. Michael can't play with everybody.
Yeah, true.
LeBron can't play with everybody. He's a good passer and everything, but still, you gotta play with the ball. Magic could play with everybody. You sit in All-Star games, you sit with the Dream Team, you sit with everybody.
He made the good players great.
It's making your players around you better.
He did that.
Let's hear
That's
from
the
the,
key.
let's hear from the coach himself.
I'll give it to Magic. Reason being, he can play any position.
True.
And he played any position, he played them well.
He won MVP at Central, right?
So,
Yeah.
so
I think so.
a player like that, you know, all around talent, I would give it to him.
It was proven that he won a championship with Kareem when Kareem was injured.
Yeah.
And he
played center.
he led the team.
played
That's the
center.
year.
Yeah, that's the year.
That's
You know, the whole world is looking at two players, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and I think it's unfair the way they are going about it. This is just my opinion. The great late Kobe Bryant, may his soul rest in peace. His idol was Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
In Kobe's era, Kobe was the best player then, but he still is not considered among the greatest players. I mean, so I find when we're defining the greatest player, I still think there is a lot of loose cannon.
Yeah,
because
basketball
Kobe
is positions,
idol
Cutty.
And that's
Michael
what I say,
Jordan,
era-
and if Kobe
era
idol
tells the
Michael
difference.
Jordan, and
Era
you
tells
have
the
Michael
difference.
Jordan to be the greatest player, so where is Kobe Bryant position?
Well, I'll give you this one because he wasn't flashy. Tim Duncan.
Exactly.
Tim Duncan finished the game with 35 points, 14 rebounds, 6 block shots. He asked himself when he did that.
Okay,
Now,
but-
if we ask this question, who was the most dominant player in the NBA as a big man?
Shaq.
Where do we go?
Shaquille O'Neal. He transcends the game. He's a man that brings illegal defenses and all
Who
that.
is the most defensive player in the NBA?
Now,
Who was?
today or
Who was?
Dennis Rodman.
But Dennis Rodman go down in history as one of the greatest defender, right? But why he didn't make the American team? Why he didn't make the USA All-Star?
Yeah, but
You know, that had to do with his
remember-
If
attitude.
you, but hello,
That had a lot to do with his attitude.
Yeah.
listen
that had
again.
a lot
If
to do with
you
his
if
attitude.
you're gonna put me down as this person, hello, I can go over there. Just like
Yeah,
Coach
but as we
Louis said.
talk, discipline-
No, as
discipline
Coach
from
Louis
Isaiah
said.
Thomas was a victim of that too.
There you go.
Yeah, as Coach Louis said,
Exactly.
if
Discipline.
you have these players, then listen, you're gonna come to try out. But listen, if you're messing up, you gotta sit on the side. But you never give him the chance. He never got the opportunity to say he was named on the All-Star team.
There's a lot of great
So
players
you
that didn't
really
get the
think
opportunity.
Christian Laettner had to be in the dream team over Isaiah
Shaquille.
Thomas?
No,
Exactly.
Indeed, I
But
don't.
it's commercial and sales.
Yeah. Well, as a Tar Heel fan,
Now, Magic
no
Johnson.
Duke had to be on that team.
Yeah, but listen, Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson had the least talented team and winning the era. Michael Jordan had stars. He had Tony Kukoc. He had all of these guys. LeBron. All of them.
I wouldn't say Magic Johnson had the least talented team.
I wouldn't
Because
say
they
that.
had fellas like Byron
I wouldn't
Scott,
say
James
that.
Worthy,
I wouldn't say
Kareem
that.
How much
Abdul.
talent they had over Scott.
And their time,
Scott.
and their time,
Tony
yes,
Kukoc.
and their time.
And
Like
all
you,
of
like you
them.
said.
When they
And then
yeah,
it's
he said,
right,
when in
Like
their
you said,
era, the
listen,
field were more
yeah, but
balanced.
like we said, Magic was a player that made the other players around him great. You said it.
Gentlemen,
So that's the difference.
let's wrap up this program. We're going to go around the table. Mr. Hodge, is there anything you would like to tell the general public of St. Martin? What you would like to see basketball-wise happening in St. Martin in the near future?
Well, the general public, well, this is going to be geared more towards the younger basketball players. Take advantage of the courts that you have now. Play basketball. Don't come riding bike and doing the extracurricular stuff. Don't come vandalizing. I have to mention that because my job consists of maintaining a lot of these sports facilities, and we're catching fits with vandalism.
Wow.
Come and play basketball. Come with your sneakers. Don't come with slippers. Love the game. Take it serious, and you'll see elevation.
Thank you. Mark?
What I want to see in all the sports is that parents get involved with their kids, coming to the basketball court to watch their kids, going to the baseball field to watch their kids. When we see it on TV, you see a kid could be proud to be saying, that's my mother, that's my father. But St. Martin, you come to a game, you have nobody in the stands. Not one parent or relative could represent a child. That'd be incredible.
Coach Louis?
I think you all mentioned it earlier. I believe we should get back into the schools, get the youngsters from the school, get them going, get them motivated, and from there we could, build.
Let me ask you a personal question. If there's a growth in basketball, would you ever consider coming back to coach?
I would consider coaching a school team. Let me put it out. I would go into school. It was always a thought of mine to get in one of the schools and work from there.
Wow. Mr. Flanders, your last thoughts?
Well, I can't agree more with both Louis and especially what Mr. Bear said, Mark Edwards. Too often, and even in our era, he could identify to that. A lot of parents just they come to, let's say, a national game, and that's when you want to see the best of your athletes. But during the home season, the community season, you don't see that. You know, and that's where your kids grow from. It starts from one level before you get to the next. And if more parents put a lot more into their kids, I would believe you see a lot more of the athletes.
That in particular makes me wonder. I mean, even the seniors now. Let's say we have a basketball game tonight. You see 2 teams playing, but you see 10 people in the stands. I mean, I'm talking senior. Doesn't these players have a girlfriend? Or doesn't they have a sister, a brother, a mother, somebody that, hey, Beer playing, I gotta go see Beer. You have to sell yourself also.
Again,
Beer is playing tonight, but we gotta go see Beer, we gotta support Beer.
Again, I would have to go back with what Bear said. This thing about the districts makes a big difference. Because guess what? If we're all from the same district, people from the district will come out to see us play. Because we pass the message around, letting them know we're playing tonight, and the stand eventually gets full in that aspect. But when we take a player from each district and put them on a team, that's a whole different.
Yeah, but the athletes have to do their part.
No, that's right.
Come and play the game the right way.
No, I
Don't
agree
come
with
play
you.
nonsense.
I totally
then I
agree
ain't
with
coming
you.
back to watch
I
you play.
totally agree
Honestly,
with you.
because
I totally agree with you.
you know, because
We have to go back to the discipline.
we want to see good.
One of the biggest problems we have in St. Maarten, and we have to be honest to ourselves, to tell the children the truth too.
Yes.
In the schools, we want it in the schools, but most of the gym teachers in the school, they're not basketball coaches, they're not volleyball coaches, they're not football coaches, they're not those type of coaches, they're gymnastic coaches, or maybe they have a little.
You know what it means? It means that, like you said, which is true.
Every school has to build a program.
Absolutely.
You have to build a logo. You have to have a uniform for your school. That when your school going to play, you got your flag, you got your t-shirts,
Yes.
you have your uniform. We could say
You got your
Peters
fan
Wild
club.
Cats.
You got
We
your
could
fan
say
club.
St. Dominic
Tigers.
Tigers.
Yeah.
We could say Old Parsons School this. That's the way it's supposed to be. We have to, if we want to be the best, we got to do like
But you
the
know what
best.
happened?
But that's
it
coming,
has
you
to
know.
start from somewhere.
Yeah.
And as Mr. Sifi said, he's part of a program
That's coming.
that's going to look at that avenue.
That's going to be one of
And it has to be
the shows
introduced
coming up.
so that
More
the kids know,
information.
this is the way our kids can grow. Because everybody can't be doctors and lawyers. We can have a few athletes. And as he said, and we know this, we all know this, the island has a tremendous amount of talent. And if we don't do something about it, it's going to go to nothing.
The next problem we have, all the leagues depends on government. We have to eliminate government, and we got to do for we.
Not
Because
eliminate, but
I don't
solely
totally agree.
rely on it.
Exactly,
Exactly.
because if I
Exactly.
went to Mac School, and Mac School building a program with sports, what it is to me to donate $10 every month.
Yeah, but you know what happened? The school has an easier avenue getting sponsorship than, for instance, anybody else. So you trying to farm a team out there because it's look, every parent, the team has a tradition that says we're going on a field trip. Every parent has to send $10. What is the difference? That if your child is going to be part of a basketball team or a volleyball team or whatever sports curriculum they have there, that the parents will partake and contribute towards your kids, whatever they're playing, whether it's sports or education.
But what I really wanted is to be consistent. I went to Mac School. If you tell me put $10 every month for Mac School sports, I will put it.
Thank you. And so
How much children went through the Mac School? If they tell me put the next 10 for Milton Peters College, I will do it. Because I went to Milton Peters and thousands of children went there.
Believe me, if it is introduced from the school's part, on the school's behalf, the parents will contribute.
I think so.
Gentlemen,
Because they contribute in a whole lot of ways, and this is just no other exception that they can't.
Well, that's a good idea.
So we have more information now that, this has been very informative. I as the co-host, Mr. Flanders, appreciate you, Mr. Hodge, Mr. Edwards, Mr. Richardson, for you guys coming on this program
Thank you.
and sharing your knowledge and information with us and the general public at large.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure having you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the Curtlyn Warner Show. We'll see lots more of these programs coming towards St. Maarten in particular, when we are trying to share sporting and keeping our sporting games and in the different avenues alive. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.